Okay, then let's start. Okay, so let's check the second fundamental theorem on homomorphism, or the second theorem on homomorphism. So the second theorem says that there are two subgroups of G, and one of them is a normal subgroup. Okay, and we have to prove. Okay, H and K are subgroup of G such that H is normal. Then we have to show that HK by H is isomorphic to K by H intersection K. Okay, K by H intersection K. And there is one more theorem, that is the third theorem of homomorphism. Okay, which is very similar. Okay, and in that you will be proving like G by K is isomorphic to G by H upon H by K, and it will be given that K is class K is a subset of H. Okay, this will be the third theorem that we will prove. And both will have one thing very similar. That is, both will use the fundamental theorem of homomorphism for proving. That I said, whenever there are question groups involved in isomorphism, mostly we use the fundamental theorem of homomorphism. Okay. The second thing I said, the most important step in solving any question of isomorphism or homomorphism is finding the relation, that is the function, how they are functionally related to each other. So here I'm giving a small trick. Mostly in these kind of question, the function will always relate from right to left. Okay. So, and because we don't find the relation with the quotient group, we find the relation. How is the fundamental theorem used? We don't use the quotient group. We just use the numerator. That is K. K should be functionally related to, okay, HK by H. Okay, K should be functionally related to HK by H, and then I will prove that this relation is a homomorphism. This is onto, and then I will prove that because this is homo and onto, so I will use the fundamental theorem, and then you will prove that the kernel of, let's say, if I call the relation F, then the kernel of F is equals to H intersection K, and then using the fundamental theorem, you can say that K by H intersection K is isomorphic to HK by H. So this is the whole process. In most of the question, you follow this process, that you define a relationship, prove that it is a homomorphism and onto, and then you find its kernel, and then you write it. K by the kernel is isomorphic to the right hand side. Okay, and isomorphism is a like bilateral relation. That is, okay, if a like if A equal to B, then B equal to A. That is, it's a equivalence relation. So if A equal to B, B equal to A is equal to A, it's transitive also. Okay, so proving either side is fine. Okay, so that is the thing that you should know. So how to, in both the cases, in the third theorem also, you won't define the relation in this way. You will define the relation in this way. Okay, so that should be known to you. That you define the relation like this, without this K, without the denominator. Okay, sorry, not this, without this denominator. You will from G by H to G by K. We will see that how to go about it. Okay, so let's prove the theorem. Okay, so let me explain the process. So I will define a relation between K to HK by H. Okay, HK by H. Okay, HK by H, and then I will prove that it is well defined, because whenever you define a function, the function should be well defined. Okay, the well-defined is must. Then you prove it is a homomorphism. It is a homomorphism. And then you prove that it is a onto. And once you prove, then you use the fundamental theorem, and then you prove, okay, this will be equal to this. This will not be equal to that kind of thing. Okay, let's start. Okay, so the whole thing is what should be the relation. So because the relation is from K to HK by H. Okay, so let's say call this relation phi. Phi goes from K to HK upon H. So any element in this will be of the form okay, will be of the form small k, right? This is small k, and this will have cosets because this is the quotient group. This will have cosets. What will be the form of cosets? H into some element x, where x will belong to x belongs to HK. Now any element which belongs to HK will have form of HK only, small s small k. That is, this will be H into some small h into k. Now we also know that HH equal to H because H belongs to H. So if you see, in reality, this H will get absorbed. You will finally get only H and some small k. So elements of HK upon H will be of the form the set H into the coset H into small k. Okay. Did you understand this? What I'm saying? I'm just saying this is the quotient group. So the elements will be cosets. Cosets will be H into X, where this X belongs to HK. Okay. And this X will be form of small h, small k. So that is, this cosets will be of the form H into small h, small k. But small h belongs to H. So it will get absorbed in it. So you will only have small hk. If you have any doubt, please ask me. Okay. So I define the relation phi of k because elements of k are of the form k is equals to H, capital H into small k, right? Because this is of this form. Any doubt in this? Once we know this relation, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. So once you know this, that's why I said that the relation will always be backward without the denominator from k to hk by h. And once you know this relation, you just have to write element of this equal to element of that. Okay, nothing to think about it. This looks very dirty now, but once you understand why I'm taking hk, because of this reason, because hk will finally give you hk only. Okay, now let's prove phi is well defined. How to prove phi is well defined? Anyone? Like, what's the process of proving anything well defined? That you take two elements, that is k1 equal to k2, and then you have to prove that phi of k1 equal to phi of k2. Right? This is the process. Please say something. Is it clear? Like, well defined means that if we take any two elements, the function should always give the same two values, right? Same two values. Okay. Okay, so this is simple. Just pre-multiply by h because k1 equal to k2. So h of k1 equal to h of k2. This means phi of k1 equals to phi of k2. Hence, this is well defined, proved. Now, what we have to prove? Phi is homomorphism. Phi is homomorphism. How do you prove phi of homomorphism? You will take phi of k1, k2, which will be hk1, k2. We know that in cosets, this can be written as h of k1 into h of k2. We know that h of k1 is equals to phi of k1. H of K2 is equals to phi of K2. So phi of K1 K2 equal to phi K1 into phi K2. Therefore, this is homomorphism. This is also checked. Now, what is the third thing that you have to prove? That is a little texting. Phi is onto. What is onto? That for every image, let's say like HK in HK by H, you will have some pre-image, right? Some pre-image K. So that is the thing that you have to prove. But in that, mostly we write statements. There's nothing much to prove. So let's say some y belongs to HK by H. Okay, some y belongs to HK by H. Then y will be equal to some H into some X, where X belongs to HK. Therefore, is equal to some small h, small k. This means it's equal to HK. Y equals to HK. Therefore, Y is equals to phi of K, because this is HK, right? And this is phi of K equal to HK. Hence, this implies there exists K belongs to K such that phi of K is equals to Y, right? Therefore, phi is onto. Okay, so we didn't prove anything. We just wrote statements, nothing else. Now, the thing. Now I proved that phi is well defined. Phi is well defined. It is onto and it is homo. Because of these three reasons, I can apply fundamental theorem on homomorphism, right? Let's apply it. So it means that K upon kernel phi is isomorphic to HK upon H. This is the fundamental theorem of homomorphism. Now let's check what is the kernel phi. Kernel phi. What is kernel phi? That is phi of K is equals to identity of HK upon H. What is the identity in a quotient group? The normal subgroup itself. That is phi of K is equals to H, right? What is phi of K? HK is equals to H. Now HK is equals to H. We know that HH is equal to H. That is HA is equal to H if and only if A belongs to H, right? That is the property of cosets. Therefore, K belongs to H. But we know that K belongs to K. That is the whole thing we started with, that K belongs to K. And K belongs to H. This means K belongs to H intersection K, because it belongs to both the subgroups. It means K belongs to H intersection K. This implies kernel of phi is equals to H intersection K. Now by fundamental theorem of homomorphism, or the first theorem of isomorphism, K by H intersection K is isomorphic to HK by H, or you can write HK by H is isomorphic to K upon H intersection K. Questions on this will not come if the proof of the theorem can be asked in the paper. Questions are not asked from this. Questions are asked from the fundamental theorem of homomorphism. So this is the second theorem of homomorphism, the proof that I just explained. The most important part is understanding the relation. That relation is always backward. from without the denominator, k to hk by h. Then what? Just take element from this. Element will be of the form k. Take elements from this. Element will be of the form h into some x. X will be hk, but no point of having h because it will get absorbed. The final element will be of the form hk only. Okay, so practice this 2-3 times, you will understand. Because once the relation is known, rest of the things come automatically. If you have practiced this 2-3 times, you can easily find it is like if you know the properties of cosets and you have practiced it 2-3 times, you can easily know that okay, this is well defined, this is onto, this is homomorphism. Everything is very, very easy, but it will require little practice in the beginning. Now let's prove the third theorem. Okay. Third theorem of homomorphism. Okay. It says there are two subgroups. Okay. There are two subgroups, H and K. Both are normal subgroups this time. And H is a subset of K. Okay. K are normal SG of G such that H is a subset of K, then G by H is isomorphic to, G by K is isomorphic to, okay, G by K is isomorphic to G by H upon K by H. Like I told, relationship will be always backward without this, the denominator. Okay. So what should I choose? I will choose again a phi going from G by H to G by K. G by K. Now tell me what will be the elements of G by H? It will be some H into G, right? H into G, where G belongs to G. What will be the elements of the form G by K? G by K will be K into G, where G belongs to G, right? The relationship becomes very easy. Okay, so phi of Hg is equals to Kg. I'm not doing anything. I'm just using this relationship. Phi of Hg is equal to Kg. From this element of this to element of this. Because I'm using the common element will be G. Okay, now I have to prove this. Right? I have to prove this. Let's first prove what is well defined. How to prove well defined? You will take Hg1 equal to Hg2 and you have to prove what? Phi of Hg1 is equals to phi of Hg2, right? Again, property of coset. If H of A equal to H of B, then AB inverse should belong to D. It means that G1 into G2 inverse should belongs to H. Now what is given is H is a subset of K that was given in the question. So this implies G1 into G2 inverse belongs to K also because H is a subset of K. So every element of H will belong to K. This implies that Kg1 is equals to Kg2, right? Just the reverse property of coset. This implies phi of Hg1 is equals to phi of Hg2. Why? Because the relation is Hg equal to Kg. So Kg equal to phi of Hg. I just wrote this. Any doubt in this? How I proved well defined? Okay. Now what we have to prove next thing? Okay. What is the next thing that we have to prove? You can prove either homomorphism or onto. Let's prove homomorphism. Okay. Homomorphism. How to prove homomorphism? Okay, I will take phi of H G1 G2, which is equals to K G1 G2, right? I know that phi of this will be equal to H of G1 dot H of G2, that is the property of cosets, and this will be equal to Kg1 dot Kg2. Now what is Kg1? This is phi of Hg1 and this is phi of Hg2. So phi of Hg1 G2 is equal to phi of Hg1 into phi of Hg2. Therefore, phi is homo, right? Phi is a homomorphism. So this also proved. Pretty simple, no brainer. Now I have to prove onto. This can be a little taxing because you have to write statement, think about it. Okay. Sometimes we don't even understand. Oh, okay, if you're writing the obvious thing, is it true or not? Okay. So we take the element on the right side. Okay. Let Kg belongs to G by K. Okay. Let Kg belongs to G by K. Okay. For some G belongs to G. Okay. For some G belongs to G. Now we know that for all G belongs to G, Hg will belongs to G by H, G by H. Now we know that okay, phi of Hg is equals to Kg. Therefore, there exists Hg for all Kg, right? This implies phi is onto. It is for every Kg you can always find an Hg. You can always find an Hg. So this is an onto. So I proved all the three things, right? I proved that phi is well defined. I proved that this is onto. And I also proved that this is homomorphism. So therefore, I can use the fundamental theorem on homomorphism, which says that what was the group? Group was G by H. Yeah. Group was what did just give me Hg upon kernel of phi is isomorphic to G by K, right? Now let's check what is the kernel of phi. Okay. Kernel of phi will be phi of Hg is equals to identity in G by K. What is the identity G by K? K itself. That is Hg, phi of Hg equal to K. That is Kg is equals to K. Right? Kg is equals to K. Hg equal to Kg. So Kg, it means that G belongs to K, right? It means that this only happens for cosets when G belongs to K, right? G belongs to K. Now, if G belongs to K, then what will be the case with Hg? Then Hg will belongs to K by H, right? Because what is K by H? K by H will be H into some element of K, but this belongs to this, right? Because this G belongs to K only, no? So this Hg will belongs to K by H, right? This Hg will belongs to K by H. Therefore, kernel phi will be equals to K by H by fundamental theorem of homomorphism. G by K is isomorphic to G by H upon K by H, because the kernel is K by H. Okay. So this was the, again, so in both the theorems, we use the fundamental theorem of homomorphism. So that is the thing that you have to understand. In most of the questions or theorems where you have to prove isomorphism between two quotient groups, no matter how complex, how complicated they look, in reality, they are very easy questions if you understand that you have to use the fundamental theorem of homomorphism. And to apply fundamental theorem of homomorphism, you need to prove three things. It is well defined. Okay. It is onto, and it is homomorphism. And then you have to find the kernel. That's it. 4 steps and you will get the answer. So this looks very difficult at first when you study it, but in reality, this chapter is not very tough. Once you read it 2-3 times, it becomes a very simple problem, and the question comes from 15 to 20 marks. 15 marks, 20 mark questions come from this chapter. Most of the time, sometimes 10 marks have also come. Okay. And there are some 2-3 typical questions that you should know by heart. Okay. So this, I'm leaving here. Please ask me any doubt. Any doubt, any issue, if you want to explain.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, so today I have posted the one from 3.34 regarding the same.
What?
So today's topic from the today's topic.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yeah.
So I have posted the image, sir, like why we are taking like f of a equals to TA in this. So the theorem is there, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I saw your doubt in the group. Okay. I will. Okay, I will see the question actually first. I was not clear of the question, and I was in a hospital that time, so I could not.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So I will look at it, and I will come back to you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So any doubt? Any other doubt? So was the class useful? Did you guys understand the three theorems today?
Yes, sir. We understood.
So if not, even if you are not able to understand the second and third theorem, don't worry much. You will eventually understand it. But please focus on the first fundamental theorem of homomorphism. Okay, that is the most important theorem. The fundamental theorem of homomorphism you have to learn by heart. You should know its proof. And you should also know the questions related to it. Okay, and you should practice enough so that once a question comes from fundamental theorem of homomorphism, you can identify it and solve it. Because the question can look very dirty. It could be very dirty. Okay, but in reality, it's a very easy question. Once you have, like I solved that. I solved it in a very dirty manner, but I solved the question of general linear group and the special linear group. Right. So, and one other thing is you should be aware of the terms, like what is kernel, okay, what is isomorphic image and all these things. And there are some important groups that you should know, that special linear group, general linear group. These are the terms which are that you should be aware of. If you don't know these terms, then it could be an easy question, but you will not be able to solve it because you are not aware of the term, right? Then there is some group. Please write down the groups that you should know. So you should know there is a group called Klein-4 group. Klien. Klien. Klein-4. Klein-4 group. Why Klein-4 group is very special? This is the smallest non-cyclic abelian group. Okay. Klein-4 group is the smallest non-cyclic abelian group. It is abelian but not cyclic. Okay. Then there are some groups that you should learn by heart. One group is a permutation group, S3 group. S3 group you should know by heart. Okay. S3 group you should know by heart. Then there is a quaternion group. Quaternion group. You should know it. Quaternion group. You should know it. Then you should know the properties of the dihedral group. The name has not taken by the UPSC in their question papers, but many times the questions have been asked from the dihedral group. So if you can solve it without knowing it. But if you know that, if you could identify, okay, this is the dihedral group, then you can solve it very easily and in less time. But if you don't know that the properties of dihedral group, then it will take a longer time and and more effort to solve the same question. That's why please read about dihedral group also. Okay, dihedral group also. Then you should always have some examples and counter examples in your pocket, because the question can always, in UPSC, they always ask, like they have a habit of asking, okay, give me an example of a group which is abelian but not cyclic. Okay, give me example of a group, okay, where H is normal to K. Okay, K is and the H is G is K is normal to G, H is normal to K, but H is not normal to G. So all this can be asked in an exam, and at that time, in that pressure, in less time, you might not be able to think of example at that moment. So if you have prepared few examples, it might click you, okay, that you can create many other examples from it also. I always share a list. I will share a list that I prepared. I will share that list with you guys. Okay. So don't worry about that. But you also should have some examples in your pocket, because those examples also help you think better. And group theory is all about revision. The more number of times you revise, the better you get at it. Okay. It took me at least 3-4 times to get comfortable in it. So if you are not getting it 100%, don't worry. It will take you time again and again. You will have to look at the solutions again and again, but don't worry. Just see it again and again. Try doing questions again and again. Be in touch with it. Okay. See videos if you want to. But all it will take at least 3-4 revisions. So don't worry that if you're not getting everything at the first go, you will not get everything in the first go. But this is a very theoretical paper, very, very theoretical subject. It will take a little time to have a grasp over it. Okay. One thing which is very important is write all the important groups and all the important theorems separately without proof. Just know their statements and okay, what it is not. Because if you have that in hand, it will be easier for you to understand it or associate X to Y, Y to X. Like if you don't know the properties of coset, for example, you can never understand how I proved all the 3 theorems, right? If I say HA equal to HB, then AB inverse belong to H. You should remember this. Only then you can understand it. Okay. And why it happens, that you should also understand. So I posted I think a YouTube link on question groups where I actually explained that why HA equal to H if A belongs to H. Right. I proved that. Or with using, I think, Klein-4 group only, I proved it. Using some group, using some group I proved it. I don't remember. Maybe. So that you should know. Okay. Like why quaternion group is very, I said you should know about quaternion group. Quaternion group is a non-abelian group. That group is itself non-abelian, but all its proper subgroups are cyclic. So the group itself is non-abelian, but all its proper subgroups are cyclic, and every cyclic group is abelian. So all its proper subgroups are abelian. So let's say question is asked to you that give an example of a group which is a non-abelian group, but its proper subgroups are abelian. Then you can always quote the Q8 group, right? Because it itself a non-abelian group, but its all proper subgroups are cyclic. Cyclic means abelian. So that all its subgroups are abelian. So there are many such good examples. At least 5-7 good examples you should keep. Okay, to yourself. Just like you studied about quotient groups. Okay. So if I take an infinite quotient group, will the quotient group be finite or infinite? That is a question. Okay. The quotient group of a finite group need not be the quotient group of an infinite group need not be a infinite group. It can be a finite group. Give me an example of that. If the quotient group of infinite group is a finite group. They're very, very, very easy question. This is, but in exam time, it might become a little difficult to think if you're not very comfortable with group theory. That's why you should have few examples with you. Okay, to guide you. I'm not saying the direct question will come on this only, but if you have the basic examples with you now, then even a little difficult question is asked. Because of those examples, you kind of get the way how to reach there. That is the way math is learned, right? You know some facts and then use those facts to prove some other facts. So that is the way. So you don't need to worry. Just keep on like revising again and again. Give test, very, very important. Even if you are not able to solve most of the questions in the test, it doesn't matter. When you give the test and then you look at the solutions, you learn a lot. So giving test is very important. Don't skip tests. Give test. Be sincere. Study. Okay. Best of luck. Have any doubt, please ask me in the group. Okay. Good night.